So, in today's video I'm transforming this old body into a fully custom one I designed. This scooter looked good in 1956 when it came out, but today it looks more like a boat. I spent the last few months bringing back to life this old abandoned scooter. And now it's finally time to replace this old design. In the last video we make some new front air intakes for the scooter. And in today's video we are going to complete the entire build by doing the rear body. So we are going to start with the end of the scooter and move to the front air cooling. The first step to do the rear is going to be to cut off this entire rear part So we'll probably cut off all this right here. So I need to be pretty careful because there can be two major problems. The first one is more like a design problem, is that the cut right here is not straight. Like here I'm cutting more off as the other side. And it's pretty ugly and I hope I won't do this. And the second problem is that I will need to be careful by cutting off the rear right here, that the entire body don't bend itself or damage itself. So the first step I'm going to do is draw the line on this side into the shape I want, and then I will try to make the same on the other side. So the idea is that the line follows the shape of the rear axle right here. So what we'll need to do to get this right shape, we'll need to get the pike onto the ground. So let's do this. It's not pretty bad, but I think I will put the wheel from the front at the back to get a really realistic look to make the line. Alright, so now I can see I installed the wheel and it's way better. So now let's try to get a pretty clean line. So guys, I think I just found the perfect shape. It's matching the shape of the rear axle, how you can see. I'm pretty satisfied with the result. Now I will probably need to thin a laser because I will not be able to draw the line on the other side as clean as this side. It will be way too hard. So let's try to thin a laser. Alright, so I have some pretty good news. I just received the laser that my friend bought me, and now I can make a straight line to cut off the part. So we are going to perfectly align the laser with the scooter, because if it's not aligned perfectly with the bike, my cut and my line will not be straight. It will be bent to the side or something like this, and that's really something we don't want because it will look ugly. And let's align the laser with the bike. Alright, so you can see right here, I have a pretty straight line that's aligned with the scooter. So now we have our line to be aligned with the scooter. Now we are going to try to get aligned with this shape. It's going to be hard, but let's try it. Alright, so I just put this right here, and I'm going to align it with the line on the ground right here to get the straight line to cut off the rear body. Alright, so I can see now we are perfectly aligned with the rear body. Now I'm going to put some tape on the rear body, like I did on the floor right here, to mark the line of the laser. It will be too hard if I'm doing it with the pen, so I'm just going to tape it to the straight line. Alright, so I can see now I have the straight line. It's pretty clean, I did it pretty good with the tape. So now let's move on to the part where I'm cutting off the rear. So I will need to be careful because I can see the laser is not going onto the other side. Logic, it's a light. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut off just the half right here, and then I will see the laser on the other side. So I'm not going to cut this off on the bike because there's the risk to touch the tire or even the bike. So I'm going to take this off and do it on my workbench. I first wanted to keep the part by removing the screws, but how you saw, it's welded on. So I had to cut this off, so I was able to cut through right here and take off this side of the part. So I can see now the part is removed. It kind of bent itself, I don't know if you saw it, but I don't know if it's that bad or not. We are going to see when I'm removing everything. So now let's put it back on a bike, put on the laser and hope the laser will go through right here and Okay, so now I'm going to apply the tape to make the line. It's going to be pretty hard, but let's try it. I needed to remove the wheel so I can see the laser behind it and do a clean cut. The only thing I needed to pay attention to was not to change the position of the bike, so that the cut will be straight and clean. But yeah, you will see later on that I had some problem with that. I struggled a lot on this side, but I can see now it's perfectly aligned. So now let's put the part on the workbench and cut this side off. Alright, so now that the part is cut off, let's check it with a laser if it's straight or not. Alright, so yeah, nice. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the sharp edges so I can see right here. So I'm not cutting myself and so it's looking cleaner. I just removed all the sharp edges. So now let's put back on the wheel and see if it's aligned right here with the axle. So I'm pretty happy with the result. It's looking really clean. Let's show you. Oh yeah, that's really clean. I can see it's perfectly aligned. Yeah, that's looking good. Alright, so now that this is finished, let's move on to the hot air outtakes I can see right here. So yeah, you probably understand it, the hot air will still go out from here, but I will still make them for the design and the look, you know. I will need to be pretty careful because I already know it, the part will bend itself because I'm going to cut off the entire part right here and just keep this one right here and this. So yeah, it's normal that the part will bend. Alright, so now let's put the laser into the right position. So yeah, I can see I just found the position I want. It's looking really clean. Alright, so now let's put on the tape. Alright, so I can see I just cut off this side and yeah, it's looking pretty clean. So now I'm going to put some tape on the other side and cut out the other side. Alright, I can see I just put the tape on. Now let's cut this off. So I kinda make a mistake. The bike wasn't aligned with the laser. So yeah, let's show you. So yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but right there, you see, there is way too long compared to this side. It was already weird because yeah, I didn't cut this thing out and on this side I cut it out. So now I'm gonna fix this by putting back some tape on it and then cut it out again. Let's show you right back when I fix that. Alright, so you can see now it's looking clean and really clean. So now the next step will be to grind away the edges right here, I can see. And then I will like weld just a flat metal piece right here and then weld the other metal piece right there. Because I can see on my drawing it's closed right here. But right now it's open because yeah, they're not supposed to have more layers back there. So we'll need to make this new body layer. So let's do this by first grinding this away and weld a flat metal piece on that part. Alright, so now that I made both parts for every side, I can see right here, it's fitting perfectly. So now we are going to weld them on. So I need to be kind of careful because the part can bend itself and how you see, it's bending pretty easy. So I need to be careful that with the heat, it's not like destroying the entire shape of the part. It will be pretty bad. So now let's weld this and hope it won't bend. So I can see I just welded it and grind it away and it's looking pretty clean. So now the next step will be to put it onto the bike to see if it's fitting or not. Alright, and now it's fitting. Perfect. Alright, so now it's fitting perfectly. I just adjusted right here, I can see, because this wasn't fitting. But yeah, now it's into its place perfectly. So now let's weld the other side. Alright, so now I can see I just made the other side. Now both sides are made. So, how you saw, I didn't weld right here and right there. Because what I'm going to do is, on the drawing that I make, the footboard like ended on the heat air outtake. What I didn't saw when I draw the drawing is that there's this little part right here, kinda ugly. I don't want to see this. So I will need to make the football go until here. That's why I welded right here, but not right there. So the first time for what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this off right here. And then I will try to remake this shape right here, right there. But yeah, let's first cut this off. Alright, so I can see I just made the part. So now let's weld this on. So I just finished the weldings and they are pretty clean. Let's show you. Alright, so I'm gonna grind the weldings away real quick and then see you right back when I'm finished with that. Alright, so I can see I made the edge right here pretty easily and it's looking really clean. So now the next step will be to make another part that's going to be right here to close up this rear body. So let's hope that it's looking clean and matching with the body. So let's do this. Alright, so you can see I made the part. It's looking pretty clean. So I first made a little mistake. That's why it's missing a little part right here. I'm just going to add it and weld it on. So first I'm going to weld the top right here. Align it with the body by doing some points. And then I will weld right here. So yeah, let's try it and see if I can weld it clean. Alright, so I just finished the welding and it's looking really clean. Let's show you. So yeah, I can see it's looking pretty clean. So I'm gonna grind the weldings away and see you right back when I'm finished with that. I can see I grinded the weldings away and it's looking really clean. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to weld the part right here and grind it away and see you right back when I'm finished with all that. Alright, so I just finished the part and it's looking really clean. I can promise you that, yeah, that's looking really clean. Let's show you. Alright, so you can see the part is now done. I mean, like, it's welded right here. I still need to do the vents right here, but yeah, I can see it's looking pretty clean. Now let's try to put it on the bike and see if it's fitting or not. So the problem is that it's at the same place that before that I need to cut out a little square. So let's do this real quick. Okay, now it's filling. Okay, great. Alright, so yeah, you saw it, it's looking pretty clean. I can see it's almost done. I need to get this off right here, so I'm going to put back on the laser and hope I will get the right shape. So let's do this. Alright. Alright, so I finished cutting it off and it's looking pretty clean. Let's show you. Alright, so I can see it's pretty close right here. Pretty close to the rear axle. And right here is pretty dangerous because there's this thing right here and it's literally over the metal. So if that goes up, it's crashing through the metal. Going to see when I finish the bike, I'm going to sit on it and like jump on it and see if it's going that much down or not. And yeah, we're going to see, but I will probably cut off a little round right here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do the other side and see you right back when I'm finished with the entire other side, alright? So let's do this. So guys, it's finished and yeah, it's just perfect. It's just perfect. Let's show it. Alright, so now the last step will be to make the veins right here, how we did on the front, the same as we did on the front right here. We are going to do the same at the back, and we are also going to make them out of plexiglass back there. So it's going to be a bit hard to make them all look similar. I will try my best and I hope it will look clean. So now let's make them. So guys, I think I found the perfect design. It's really looking clean. Let's show you. So how you can see right here, I just done a 90 degrees angle right here that's matching like the original shape of the body. And yeah, I think that's looking pretty clean, and like just putting 3 big ones makes it look like there's a lot of hot air coming out from this like outtake. And yeah, I think that's looking pretty clean. Alright, so I'm gonna be doing the same thing on the other side. Alright, so now I also finished this side. How you can see, it's looking pretty clean. Alright, so now that the vanes are made at the back, we are going to make the front air intake from the engine. So that right here is the original air intake to cool down the engine. But in the last video we did this one to cool down the engine. Why should we keep this one? It's pretty easy. When I'm not driving the bike, like, the air will not go through this front air intake and cool down the engine. So nothing will cool down the engine, and that's pretty bad because the engine can overheat and size, and that's really what we don't want. So I'm going to keep this air intake for when I'm not driving the bike. But we will still need to make it match the design. So my idea was pretty easy. I want to get a bit the same design as the front, I can see right here, with the little fans and this shape that we can thin a bit at the front. So the process will be the same as the last video. We'll add some expensive foam, then the filler to make it look clean, and then the last will be the epoxy and the fiberglass. So this time I'm going to use this expensive foam right here, because the other one costed 4 times more than this one. Can you imagine? So I'm going to try this one because I already bought my next barn find and my next custom project. I'm not gonna spoil you, but you should subscribe, really. So I will try this one to know if I can use it on the next project or not. It's also supposed to be hard in 12 hours. The other was like 24 hours. So it's supposed to be better for less expensive. But yeah, let's try it and see how it's doing. This time I'm going to put some water on. It's supposed to make it expand a bit more and hard faster. So let's try it. Now I'm going to wait 12 hours so it's getting dry. So let's see right back in 12 hours. Alright, so now we are the next day, and yeah, I kinda underrated the expensive foam again. Let's show you. Alright, so now let's remove the cardboard and see how much expensive foam we have. So now the next step will be to cut off first shape, not the final shape. We are going to make a first shape to go closer to the final shape. I hope there won't be a lot of air bubbles inside, because right now it seems pretty good, like, yeah. It seems pretty dense, but let's see when I'm cutting this off, because that's the most important thing about the expensive foam, that there are not a lot of air bubbles inside. Let's make this. So guys, I think I made it. It was pretty fast, but yeah, I can see it's looking pretty clean. Tell me what you think in the comments, but yeah, I love that. It's really looking good. Alright, so now we are going to put on the filler onto the part, but I can't just apply it like this because it's going to melt the foam, and that's not what we want. So we will need to apply some glue over it. It's that glue right here that you can find in every hardware store that I'm going to apply on the entire part, so it's get like a layer to protect the foam. To apply the glue, I will need to take off the part from the body. So that's going to be a bit scary part because I don't want to like break the foam or lose our shape. Let's see if I can do this without breaking the part. Alright, so this time I'm going to put on the glue without mixing it with water to see how it's doing. Nah, I need to put some water so it's easier to put it on, that's why. Alright. Alright, so it's not perfectly dry, but it's alright, look. There's a little bit still, but it's alright. So now let's go outside and put on a filler. Alright, so you can see I applied the filler. It was pretty easy this time and I didn't put too much filler onto the part. Now we are going to sand the entire part and do something smooth and clean. So let's do this and hope there are not some holes or I'm breaking the part. You can see it's already starting to look pretty clean. Alright, so now I'm gonna add some more filler to close up the hole. So now I can see I added another layer of filler. So I'm gonna still wait a bit of time and then I'm going to sand it with the hand this time, not with the power tool. By doing it with the hand I'm trying to get a cleaner result. So yeah, let's wait and then sand it. Alright, so now we have our part finished. Our mold is now finished to make our part. So now let's go outside to make the epoxy and the fiberglass. The epoxy is like a glue, and if I apply it like this onto the part, it will just glue to the part and I will not be able to remove later on this mold. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply this wax right here to protect the part. I also thought, what if I just use this like plastic film I can see right here. So I'm going to try to put a little layer of this and see if it's holding onto the part or not. So yeah, let's do this. Alright, so no, that's pretty annoying. I'm going to put on the wax, it's easier. Alright, so let's apply the wax. Alright, so now that the wax is on the entire part, let's do the epoxy. Alright, so now that we have a lot of fiberglass parts that are cut off and ready to be applied, let's move on to the epoxy. So now I will need to be careful to not like make it fall down and it's getting dirty like, because yeah, it's pretty dirty. So I will need to pay attention on that and also to not make any air bubble, because air bubble mean that the part will break. Let's do this. Alright, so I can see I just made the part. It was pretty hard. I had the most issues with this part because it was always like going down and yeah. But I managed to do it, I can see. The part is now done. So now we will need to wait so it's getting hard. So now let's move on to the next part. Alright, so waiting on to the cooling intake right here to be hard, we are going to move on to the front air intake right here. So when the part is on a bike like, and if I'm doing like some air hose that goes from here to the engine right here, I will not be able to open the engine how it's done originally. And it's going up like this originally. So I will not be able to reuse this system like. So I thought about a new system. Now this rear body will be open by taking it off from the top right here. So now that the problem is fixed, we can cut off this shape right here. On the drawing, there is the shape right here. I wanted to like cut this off to make the hose goes into this part, weld them to this part. So this part like helps the air to be guided to the engine. So now the first step will be to cut this off. But I need to be careful because it can be pretty ugly if I'm not cutting the right shape out. So now that we have our shape, we are going to move on to the part where we are going to cut this off. Then need to be pretty careful. First, to cut the right shape out, and second, that the part is not like bending itself. So let's see if I can make it without doing any mistake. Yeah, so I kinda make a mistake. It's not pretty straight on this side. It's kinda annoying, but yeah. But I think I might have an idea, because anyways, the part will be like this. And then like this rear body will go from the top to down right here on this part. So we'll still need to take off a bit of every side right here. So it's going down easier. So I think I can save this. But yeah, it's still annoying. Alright, so now let's try to save it. I can see I managed to save the part. It's looking pretty clean now. I can see now the problem is the rear body. It's not matching with the part we cut off. So yeah, there's this big hole right here and it's not on this side. So I think I'll just take this, continue it right here and do the same on the other side to match this part. And then on top right here I will grind a bit away right there. So yeah, let's do this and hope I won't like grind too much away. Alright, so guys, I managed to save it. I can see now it's looking pretty clean. It's almost looking similar on both sides. So now let's put it back on the bike and see how it's looking with the engine. Alright, so yeah, I can see right here, the engine is here and the exhaust will go down straight like this. So what we'll need to do is like 2 holes are going to come here. One will go right here and one will go right here to cool this engine down. So I think I will not even need to make some guides on the inside right here because the air is directly going to go here. So yeah, I can see it's looking pretty clean. So I just received the hose for the air intake. So now let's cut off the holes on the bike to make it fit. I will need to be careful about these things right here. I can see. Yeah, I will need to cut them off. I will need to make the holes right here and right there. And I hope I won't do like a little mess like here. Because this time we are going to weld them on. So I will need to make a perfect hole. So yeah, let's try to do this and hope it will look clean. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Let's first see if they can fit right here or not.
I can see I'm pretty large. A bit too large.
Okay. Alright, so yeah, this seems to fit, so that's pretty clean. Now let's make the holes into the front part. Alright, so now the first step will be to cut it into 2 parts. Because if I'm leaving it like this, I can just not fit it and then make the holes on the right position. And that's pretty bad. Because when I'm looking up from here, I don't want that one hose like goes like this and the other like straight. And yeah, that's looking just ugly. So now let's cut it into 2 pieces. Alright, so the hose is like 1 meter long. So I'm going to cut off at 50 centimeters. So let's mark 50 right here. And now I will first try to cut it off with the metal saw and not using like the grinder. Okay. Alright. Let's get them onto the part and see if they look clean or not. Okay. First one. Alright, so they are going a bit up. So the problem is right here. I can see the hose is like touching the chassis that's right here. I cannot put it more up. So I can see right here is a bit more space. So I think if I remove the space, it can actually fit. But I don't really know. So yeah, let's remove this little space right here and see if it's fitting or not. Okay, now the part is out. Now we can actually see if they are fitting or not, if like the little edge that was here is removed or not.
Oh man, it's still not fitting.
Oh man, oh man, oh man.
Oh man, it's pretty annoying.
So yeah, I think I might have an idea. Alright, so yeah, there are not many options. The first one is cutting off the chassis right here. But that's pretty dangerous because yeah, it's like cutting the chassis. The second option I have is to cut off a little bit of the footboard right here. It's like just cutting the shape of the wire, so it's like going inside the part like it's welded on. It's looking pretty clean, but problem is like yeah, we are cutting in the footboard. I can see there's a little space right here and I think that space is enough to like take it down a bit. So yeah, I think I will need to cut into the footboard. So yeah, alright, so let's try to do this. For this, I'ma put this back on, just put it on to see where the wires goes, because yeah, the holes are like a bit spaced. So yeah, let's do this. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. I didn't thought it will look good. I mean, yeah, I was pretty scared by doing this, that like the football band itself or something like this. And yeah, it didn't happen and it looked good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. Alright, so now let's move on to this part and drill the holes. Alright, so yeah, let's do this and hope I won't like damage anything or make an ugly shape, because that's the baddest thing that can happen to us. So yeah, it's not looking pretty clean, but let me weld. Let me weld and let's see after welding. Let's move on to the welding part and hope this part will not bend, because that's the baddest thing that can happen to us. Alright, so that's the weldings. I can see I just finished the welding. Now I'm going to grind away the weldings because yeah, I can see they are not looking pretty clean. So yeah, let's remove them. Alright, so it took me a lot of time to grind away all the weldings, but I did it. Let's show you. Alright, so now that the weldings are done, we are going to cut out the hose right here into the right length. So, right here I'm going to cut off a little edge, and right here I'm going to cut it off in a right length. Alright, so yeah, I can see I finished to grind it away and it's looking really clean. Alright, so now what we're going to do, before I cut it into the right length, we are going to install it onto the bike. Like we are going to fix it onto the bike. To install the part it's going to be a bit difficult because I can see now the part is theoretically on its place. But there's a part missing on the bike and that's the exhaust. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my exhaust. Yeah, it's pretty rusted and yeah, you probably guessed it, I'm not going to restore it because yeah, it's just destroyed. It's just like completely dead. But it's going to get a new exhaust. But that's something for the end of the build. That's not something for now. Because now we will need one part and that's this part right here. Because we are going to just install this part onto the bike to see if it can fit with the new part. Now let's try to remove it because yeah, how you can guess it, it's pretty rusted and it's not going to come off pretty easily. So let's do this and hope I can get it off. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is put some WD-40 on it. I think that's not gonna help a lot, but yeah, let's try it. Just put it everywhere, and yeah. Okay. Alright, so now that we have the part, let's install it on the bike, just to see. Alright, so I can see it's actually perfect. It's in the middle from the two hoses. Now I will need to get the right position. Alright, so now let's drill the holes into the part. Alright, so yeah, I need some drill bits that really drill. Like this are not drilling. So I'm going to get some and yeah, drill the hole this time. Okay. Alright, now let's install the part onto the bike. Alright, so what I did is actually pretty ugly, but I think it will hold. I can see right here, I put the screw on the side of the footboard. But I think by tightening it up, it will like hold. So let's try to tighten it up and hope it will hold. So yeah, let's try this. So I tested it and yeah, it was holding perfectly. But let's see with the time if it's losing or not with the vibration. Alright, so now that the airflow is done on the engine side, let's move on to the hose on the other side and cut it into the right length. So let's do this. Okay, perfect. Alright, now I marked it, let's cut this off. Alright, so now let's put the part back on the bike and install on the hose. Alright, so now let's try the airflow and see if the air intake works. I'm going to put some air at the front and side and see if it's coming out at the engine. So let's see. So yeah, how you guess it, it was working perfectly. Oh man, I'm so happy. That's looking pretty good. So now let's move on to the engine cooling that we did out of fiberglass and epoxy. Yeah, I can see now the part is pretty hard. Like, oh man. So it's perfect. We are going to remove the mold, I can see right here. So yeah, it's also like glued to everything. Alright, so we are going to remove the mold right here. And this time, I hope I won't like cut off the part. Because yeah, I don't know if you can remember, but in the front intake, I like cut it inside the part by removing the mold. Alright, so this time, I don't want to do the same mistake. So yeah, oh, it's already glued off from this part, perfect. Alright, so let's first glue this off from this part. It's going to be pretty easy. And then remove the mold. Yo. Oh, yo. Oh, okay. And now it's removed. Perfect. Alright. Yeah, let's first cut off a bit of the shape right here before removing the mold. Okay. Yeah, now let's try to remove the mold. So I'm going to go inside right here and try like separate the part from the mold. Oh, that's going to be hard. Alright, so the inside is removed, and now we need to remove the fur. Okay. That's alright. Perfect. Okay guys, now we have the part. Now we are going to put it on the bike. Alright, now let's cut it into the right shape. So I need to be careful to not like cut too much off because yeah, I will mess up the part. I will need to make it again because just putting a layer over it is not that easy. Oh, something in my glove. It's there. Ah. Oh man. Yo. I had this shit in my glove. Oh man, that's dangerous. Oh yeah. I need to be careful. Oh yeah, it seems that we got the perfect shape, I can see. Yeah, that's really clean. That's really clean. Now we are going to cut off the shape right here. So let's do this. So, yeah, let's see. That's crazy, that's actually really clean. Oh yeah. Alright, let's show you. Let's show you how it's looking. So now the part before cutting off the body to put it inside is going to make the fans right there. I can see right here there are some fans and we are going to do them. On the picture I made a lot right here, I can see. But I think I'm going to make just 4 big ones. So let's do this and hope I can make them without like changing the shape of the part because that's pretty difficult, I can see. Part is pretty easy to bend. Alright, let's do this. So, how you just saw, this glue right here isn't the right one. It didn't glue and it didn't work. I just saw like the vent just fall down, didn't stick onto the new part, and yeah, it was just pretty annoying, and yeah, I just lost a lot of time. So, I bought the right glue this time. This one right here. This is an epoxy glue, and yeah, it's supposed to be way better, and it's supposed to hold like. It's like the epoxy I use for the fiberglass, but it's a bit more thicker and it's like drying way faster. So I'm going to use this to glue the veins. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make all these little veins right here before like using the epoxy glue. So like the epoxy glue don't dry while I'm like applying the part. So let's do this. Alright, so yeah, I can see I just installed all the parts with the tape to see how it's looking. And I can see it's looking pretty good. Alright, so I can see I sanded all the parts right here. Wait. Yeah, I can see they're all sanded now. Now we are going to move on to the gluing part. We are going to glue them to this part right here. But to be able to do this, I will need to like hold the part 8 minutes into its position with the glue. So that's pretty annoying, but yeah, I will need to do this. So I will need to be careful to not move too much and put it into the right position, because once it's like glued, I cannot remove it again. Alright, so let's do this and hope everything will be alright. Okay. Alright. It seems to hold now. Oh man, was that long to wait until it's hot? I just have one. Oh, I will need to be way quicker. I will need to put... Oh man. It's already like dried inside right here, so I cannot use it again. I need to use this one. So I will need to put every part on the same time on. So that's pretty annoying, but yeah, let's do this. I'll need to be really quick and really careful. So that's really annoying. I didn't know that. It was obvious, but yeah, I didn't thought it. Alright, so yeah, I'm going to leave it like this. I'm not sure it's going to be alright, but yeah. Let's just leave it like this and see how it's looking later on. I think also the part is glued to the body, so yeah, that will be a problem for later on. Now let's wait that it's drying, and yeah. Alright, so now we are 17 hours later. So let's see how it's looking. Alright, it seems to hold, how you can see. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to remove the part, because yeah, I think it's glued to the body. I can see there's a lot of glue everywhere. So I will try now to remove it from the body. So let's do this. Remove. Okay, that's clean. Okay. Alright, so all this are looking pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's really looking clean, but the last one, oh man, that's ugly. I can see it's like not straight, and oh man, that's not ugly. That's pretty ugly. So the epoxy is still done hard, so I think I can just bend it and keep it into its position like by adding some tape. So I'm going to do this and hope it will like help so that the epoxy like dries in the correct direction. So I'm gonna put some tape on here, make it hold pretty good, like that, and then bend the entire part like this, right there. Okay. Now it's holding it in a better position. I can see it's looking cleaner. And yeah, I'm gonna keep it like this, and I hope that will help. When it's drying, the part will get hard in this position. Alright, so now I can see I just installed it, and yeah, I hope it will help it. So yeah, I will let it dry like this. And yeah, when it's hard, I hope it won't move anymore. Alright, so now what's the plan? It's pretty easy. Now I'm going to install the part onto the body. But I want something pretty special. I don't want to just cut a hole and like push it inside the hole. I want that it's like over the hole I can see right here, to glue it then on the body later on. But to be able to do this, I will need to cut out the shape, but not too much so I can glue it onto. So yeah, it's going to be a bit sketchy, but let's do this. Alright, so now the first step will be to mark the shape from this air intake before cutting it off from the body. Alright, now let's first clean up this body. Alright, so now I can see the part is cleaned up. I even applied some rust protection on the entire body where I just worked on. So now we are going to move on to the part where we are going to mark the shape from what we want to cut off. So let's do this. So now that I have the line, let's do this and cut off the inside line. But I will need to be careful because yeah, I really hope it's the right shape. Just cut it off and let's see the result. Alright, so how you can see, I just finished to cut it off. Alright, so now let's put it back onto the bike and put on the part we made. Alright, so now let's see if this part has kept this shape or not. Let's see, let's remove that. Alright. Here's alright. Okay, guys, I think we did it. Oh yes, that's already looking better. It's not perfect, but it's way better. Okay, no, okay. It's alright. It's completely alright. Okay, let's put it on. Let's see. Alright, so I just installed the air intake and it's looking pretty good. Let's show you. Alright, so I'm pretty happy to tell you that the body kit is finished. So, in the next episode, I'm going to drive this bike for the first time ever. That means I'm going to do all the electric, the brakes and the tires. So yeah, you don't want to mess that out. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. See you soon, guys.